All right. I know we have such a large crowd tonight that y'all can't wait. So we'll get started. We're going to do the minutes first, like we always do. And this month it can't get any easier. I sent everybody the minutes, but they were nothing more than a reference back to the video of last month, since we did not have a police report. And trying to think what else we had on the agenda. That becomes about it. So can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
Yes.
Thank you, Shane.
I like this.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes unanimously? Oh, I shouldn't do that. I should vote. All those in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Thank you. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, they passed unanimously. Get it right one of these days. All right, Officer Winkle. Long time no see.
Yes.
We even have a microphone there if you want. Yeah.
I apologize for September. I checked off a bucket list of mine and went mountain biking in Sedona and Flagstaff.
Gee.
So yeah, that was yes, once in a lifetime opportunity. So apologize.
Yeah.
I came back in one piece. That was major feat. October has been a very, very busy month for us. It is my most busy month the entire year. 10 days are tied up for the state fair. So I spent a good majority of my time working in the Southwest District and trying to keep up with everything that's going on in the north. School's back in full swing, so we're doing our best to keep up with the truancies with the juveniles. Thank you for everybody and your support. We have been equipped with 2 e-bikes in the North District now, and that is making a huge impact on our patrol, both in North Hills and in the Uplands Park region. So that has been awesome. Along with schools being back, it seems across the board, assaults are up all across. Most of those are juvenile cases. So I can't really discuss much on those. Motor vehicle crashes, man, that is just absolutely annihilating us. Please, please, please be patient out on the road. Can't see the tires in front of you. You're too close to the vehicle driving in front. Our civilian crash investigators are up and running. We have, I believe, 12 slots. We have 4 of those filled. Initially, we had 6 officers, but 2 decided they liked it so much that they wanted to become full-time officers. So that's helping out our numbers, kind of, sort of. But the 4 officers that are civilian crash investigators for the month of August, and 45 crashes citywide. So that's taken a huge hit off the back. We do it on the weekends when they're not working. So there are positions opening for crash investigators. So if you're looking for a part-time job or a secondary job, please apply. Outside of that, things are cruising along. Numbers wise, you're down. 164 incident reports for the past 30 days. Calls for service, sitting at 1,300. So that's a good thing in some aspects. I don't like that as far as job security for me. I like it. It'll be all right. So I will open it up to any other questions or concerns, or if there's anything you'd like me to address.
Is there any concentrated effort that's planned or that's ongoing in terms of the school zone enforcement? It's just really funny. I mean, there are places where I'm dealing with the school zone thing, and it feels like you're in danger out there.
So we have 3 high schools, I think 4 middle schools, and I have unknown amount of elementary schools. So I kind of do a rotation throughout the district on speed enforcement. every morning, and I try and do it in the afternoon as calls permitting. Today I ran on East Millbrook Road in front of Millbrook Elementary School. Just to give you an idea, I wasn't considering pulling cars that were doing less than 50. And I ended up pulling 6 vehicles over today, just by myself in a 30-minute time frame. So there is an effort, but we need to get our staffing numbers up to really make a huge difference. And looking at how our academies and what we're doing with graduation, I really think within the next year and a half, we'll be close to our full staffing levels.
That's good to hear.
Just the assault. My wife be a little disciplined carry. Like last week or a week ago, it was like a shooting happening across the street from Cary High School. So, are you finding this is like mostly high school assaults that are like taking upward, or is it?
Yes. I think there was a perfect storm in 2020 with the lockdown and raise the age. And I think we're starting to see it level out a little bit because we're figuring out how to handle it, and resources are now starting to get in place 4 years after the fact. So that is making an impact. We have North District, we have created engagement through sports at one of our local apartment complexes. And that was probably one of my most successful events. Over a 4-week period of time, we were able to engage the youth through sport. And we had a dialogue between the youth and officers, and more importantly, the youth and the adults in the community. So rather than just trying to hash it out and get everybody like hemmed up, they were able to talk out and really address the matters and have an open communication line. So we're trying all sorts of different methods to try and alleviate that.
There are a lot of cars that we hear around here, especially in the evening, where some of these kids like to see how loud their tires can screech. It's getting pretty pervasive. It used to be just a little bit at night, but now it's almost any time during the day.
Yeah, that's a battle that we're fighting all across the city. Interestingly enough, they don't do that when they see police officers around the area. We try our best to patrol that. It's one of my pet peeves because I can hear it from my house at night, several streets away. So anytime I get the opportunity to pull a vehicle over and educate them on our noise ordinance, and if I have to cite, I will. But that's pretty much a common complaint throughout the whole entire city.
Anybody else?
Thank you for your time. There's the Midtown or the North CAC that I'm headed to next. So
Yeah.
So thank you all, and hopefully I'll see you next month.
We're glad you gave us priority.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You, Robin? You're Robin, right?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. Karen sent me a note late that she's not feeling well and her child is not feeling well, so she's taking the night off. I do have her presentation that she gave to the RCAC. If you'd like, I can put that up. And if you want to just.
I could talk through it briefly, probably. She
Okay.
is so familiar with that, but I'd be happy to listen and take notes for her. I'd be glad to.
That'd be terrific.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
For everybody's benefit, Karen Ray talked to the RCAC a couple of months ago, I think maybe 2 months ago. And we were very impressed in that when people are offering better customer service, it's like, wow, because dealing with the city, I don't know about everybody else, but it can be a little confusing in terms of trying to find the right people in the right department. So I'm going to get into Karen's presentation. And Robin Deacle, right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, this
I'm
is-
the communications director. I know a little bit about a lot of things, but maybe not as much as you'd have to ask me tonight.
Okay. I should probably turn this so you can see.
There you go. Oh, perfect. Okay. You go to
Do you want to share your screen?
Oh, yeah, why don't I do that?
So what Karen Wright has been, and are you all familiar at all with what Karen Wright has been doing in customer experience management? No, perfect. I know where to start then. She has been assigned to the city manager's office in the customer experience manager position. Her first task was very specifically to replace C-click fix. Are you all familiar with that?
Yes.
And it's how you were able to report things in the past, and it was kind of glitchy.
Yes.
And it's still kind of glitchy, and there may be a few things we can do to do some, we're doing some interim work on that. But she is working with a vendor, several vendors, and a product called ServiceNow. If you have any IT friends who do help desk, they're very familiar with that product. But what that should allow us to do is to better pull in questions and reports from everybody, and then get them to the right department, and then have them answered and then responded back to you if you leave us contact information to let you know that the problem has been resolved. That's the big picture idea. The idea is also that that knowledge starts to build on itself. So we'll bring some artificial intelligence into play here, which will let us know that if you're asking about a permit for a deck, that's an example we use a lot. It can give you the information that you need back out right then, right there. And possibly even take you to the page where you would apply for that permit. So that's the idea behind this portal that we're calling it. That would eventually, on launch, it's going to answer, it's going to take reports and get them fixed. But as it grows, it should be able to grow into that system that delivers more customer service. Do I need to speak into the mic so they can hear me?
I think we're okay.
Can
Can everybody hear all right?
Okay,
I
perfect.
think the microphone's picking it up anyway.
And Karen is very well steeped in customer experience. She has been working, she was in Raleigh Water for some time. She came over to planning and helped with their permitting process with developers. And people really trusted her. They felt she was approachable. She was easy to work with, and she got them what they needed. That was kind of what I've heard about Karen in stories. And her real goal here is to kind of pare down the number of different things that are out there, specifically on our website, the number of numbers you could call, the number of people that you could contact. We're aiming for one number. We don't know if we're going to get there, but we're aiming for one number that will get you to somebody who has enough knowledge to answer a basic question, or then move you down towards to a more specific, a specialist who can answer a more specific question for you. Yes, I think today on our website, absolutely, you've got a long list of contact information. You have to pick the right department. You have to kind of know where you're going. I think this is an underlying problem with our website, which is what I came here to talk to you about too. And we hear a lot, and I mean, even I sometimes can't find the information that I need. I found it a couple of weeks ago. I go back to find it again, and it's not there. How did that even happen? So I think we know that, and we're looking at ways to resolve that. It's not going to be a short process, but we are looking at ways to resolve that. So go ahead. So what are we doing about it? I gave you a little bit of a preview of what the system is that we're working to install. Let me see what some of her notes are about that. A vision to provide customer experience that goes beyond just meeting the needs of individuals and business customers. We strive to create an easy, fair experience for all customers to access services and knowledge every day. Access services and knowledge, ASK. Our service was going to be called Ask Raleigh. So we'll have a nice name for it. And then should we move into more artificial intelligence, some programmed response, you'd be asking Raleigh. So I think that's part of the thinking.
Yeah, Marshall wants you to pick up the mic.
Absolutely. Is this better?
Okay, done. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's restart.
What's going on here? We got too much stuff going on here.
Technology is always good when it works.
It's not quite.
I think it feels like this big promise, artificial intelligence, for those of you on the phone. It feels like this big promise and we don't know quite what to do with it or haven't quite get there. So we keep kind of, I mean, I've spent the weekend reading several artificial intelligence articles and how they might deal with marketing and communications and where you might rely on it and where you might not. So I think it is kind of still a proving ground we have to traverse. So our aspirational goals with our customer experience is that you can easily access information on city services and resources, that you're seamlessly using those services and resources with support from the city as issues and opportunities are identified. Seamless means you don't have to know that transportation department fixes sidewalks or that they collect leaves. You just need to know, there's a place where the concrete is jutting up and I'm tripping every time I walk there every morning, and you report it. And you don't have to understand which department deals with that in order to get it fixed. We talk about a simplified experience for customers to set up and to maintain services. The Raleigh water billing page is the most used link on our website. And setting up service and canceling service or moving service or paying a bill are some of our most frequently visited pages. They're not the most easy things to find. And I'll talk a little bit about how customer experience and the website are going to work together going forwards. But that's a really good example of, you know, getting to something quickly, the thing that you're looking for, and not having to click to this page that goes to another page that goes to a third page. That can be frustrating. And then we want to receive timely, consistent, and clear service based on, we want you to get that based on your communications preferences. So one of the things Karen has looked at very in depth is whether people want service online, whether they'd be happy with the chatbot or finding their own answers on the website, whether they want to call, whether they'd like a live person chat, or whether they actually want to come in person. And all of our survey data has really skewed to getting it online or getting it through some kind of chatbot. But that does not mean that's the only way we're going to provide the services going forward. So that's what she means by goal number 4, is we feel that we're gonna answer a lot of questions online, but we want to save our in-person power for the people who really prefer to hear from us that way. Okay.
That must be the end.
Oh, that might be. I do have a few comments about the website, but hearing that again, it was very general. What I've worked with Karen on. Are there thoughts or questions that you all have? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've used your not recently, but I had property that had water, water off and turn it on, different rental tenants. And then I had problems with water and like busted lines. It was on a holiday, and yeah, it was just fun. But I've always been able to get on a phone call. I just use the phone and I've reached someone or they called me back. I was very pleased with the follow-up and handling the problems. I mean, my water lines and the city handler, and I had to hire a plumber, but billing and the broken line. I mean, there was a number of steps that had followed to mitigate the cost and all that. I found it very helpful. The live contacts. Good. Maybe not on the weekend or on a holiday, but I mean, you know, everybody's got to have a break. Everybody did follow up.
Okay.
I know ClickFix is getting better because I had one in since April, and I got a notification, you know, was it still an open case, and bang, within a week they fixed it. So they're getting better. There's hope.
On ClickFix, it is certain departments that are well wired into the system, and others that are not. So I'm glad that your problem is fixed.
Robin, is this still active, the survey?
I don't know. Why don't you click on the link and see? Because
Oh, I
there was-
can't because it's,
There was one survey that is no longer live, but I don't know if she's had one up and running. So let me
Okay.
find that out and I'll
Okay.
email you and you can communicate with the folks that
Yep.
are okay. All right, very
I
good.
took it when it was up. I mean,
Survey stuff up. My instinct is no, but I
I
feel like
think you're right.
community testers is something she does still want, so. Find that out for you.
On the service now,
Mhm.
because I used the C-Click fix, and it was hard to pinpoint. There was a dead cat. And so it was, I think it was a safety hat, but and pinpointing the exact location for your people, animal control or whoever goes out to pick them up, to put the cat, was difficult. So I don't know, the service now.
So your idea is that if you were on an app, you could click the mark this location
Yeah.
and that would automatically report it as this is the site of the whatever needs to be
For the
fixed.
incident or the
Got it.
or
Okay.
broken down car
Okay.
without license.
All right.
One area, but it was hard to find it on the map. And
The secret fix has the map and you can go pretty tight, but you got like, how do you drag it? If you use one finger instead of two fingers, all of a sudden it just
Yeah.
freezes on you.
Yeah.
I had a lot of that. Yeah.
But the map feature is great. I know over the park side, we see that and like, can pinpoint exactly, which tree you're talking about.
Very
Yep.
good.
and stuff like that. So,
Great. I'm glad to hear that. All right. Other customer service thoughts?
You hit it on the head. The biggest problem I have is who's responsible for what department and trying to find a live person, not just have to email somebody and hope you get a response. I wish they put names with directors and department heads. The org chart what used to be there, they put it on the new residents page, which was great, giving you an overview of who does what,
Okay.
but it disappeared too.
Yeah,
I will say that the city website is evolving. Things come and go. It's
Yeah, I will attest to that. The issue is how do I get to who I need? And you in many cases know who you're looking for. Okay.
So do I.
They don't want to put their name out there.
Can I ask, and maybe this already exists, but is there a way to sign up for alerts when something changes? So I use the pool system regularly. And at 5:45 in the morning, I do not check to see if there's a pool closure.
Right.
But it'd be really nice if there were things you could subscribe to so that if there was some kind of change in the schedule, and maybe it's out there and I just haven't noticed.
There is, I am subscribed to many of the parks. I haven't seen a community center or pool closure.
So there's a centralized one that if we have like a significant closure, we can use through, it's like our marketing division. They will post up, it'll go out through the Gov delivery. But for like canceling a class or, not having lap swim, those types of things aren't gonna be on that.
Okay.
Just because they would be so frequent. Across, because it's one central one. There's not a way currently to sign up for, like, I manage Millbrook Community Center. There's not one for anytime something happens in Millbrook. It's the Parks Department as a whole.
So there is on the Raleigh NC.gov website, if you go to the search bar and type subscribe, the first result that will come up in your search result is all of these many lists that Raleigh maintains. And you can sign up for the parks alert that will give you those main big closures. And what I also think it will do is we are working towards an emergency alerting system that has a friendly, less urgent alerting system that some of the departments are looking at using. This is 6 months to a year away, but then you would be in the know when that did launch, and you would be able to sign up for those things when needed. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So I just want to, I don't know if I have a question. Maybe I have one question and then one comment. So the survey of discovering different people's preferences, was that only districted through electronic?
Yes, it was done electronically. It was done through focus groups, in-person focus groups. And the number of respondents was not very high. It was under 100. So it was a lower number of respondents, but some other research that has been done throughout the country comes back with very similar results.
Okay, and then my comment, because I don't know if everyone here has to deal with insurance. My wife and I, we don't practice and carry. And so sort of on that life, a decade ago, they went to you had to basically automate your whole self-help was through automation. So we quit taking that life. Fast forward a decade, they hired a regional person now. And so when you get into their their benefit stuff, they have a little chat bot. It's very helpful. But you still, if you pick up the phone, it's much easier now to get hold of someone than what it was just a decade ago. So I kind of feel like we watched them do the full circle of like try to automate as much as possible and realize that it just turns more people off because that there's no way to end the frustration fast enough. Does that make sense? So that
It's a good description.
If I say I want to talk to a real person, I want the very next step to be
right, not
even if it's not the person, I need an operator of some sort.
not put your zip code in again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, no, I just need a person.
Replay the whole
help me.
story. Yes.
So just some
noted. I think if Karen were here, she could give you some better context, but I would be glad to relay that to her. I think it's an important point.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Robin, you want to change hats?
Okay.
Let me take this off.
I know that you all are, a lot of you are pretty avid city council watchers, so I did some of this presentation at the work session. But I do want to take you through a little, and I'm gonna start this presentation by saying I'd like to come back in a few months and I have some actual answers for you. So what I'm telling you today is we're starting something. In 3 to 4 months, I should be able to tell you things like, this is where this is going to be. What do you think about this page? And it has some things to show you that would be exciting to look at. It's going to be part of my outreaches to get out into the community to talk about what some of those changes are.
We would love to be part of your focus group, things that you might want to test. We'd be glad to do that.
I am so glad to hear that.
We will have laws.
I do have a comment about one thing. It's really great that the city council meetings are on YouTube and like to see that keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
YouTube is where we get our most traffic, as best we can tell, and it's
Yeah.
mostly after the council meeting. So we do know that people look at it there. We have no plans to change that.
That's
We are going to be looking at a new streaming service before next summer to hook us in, but it would still show up on YouTube.
But most people are gonna see it after the fact when they can see it, you know.
Fast forward to the part they want to see and not
Yeah,
worry about the
yeah.
rest of it. I'm with you there.
And you can pull down the transcripts too and look up and find it where in the meeting, what time certain thing was discussed.
And then the new system that we're switching to will actually let you click through the agenda and go to that, specifically to that bookmark without having to skim through.
It does that now, doesn't it?
It does not do it correctly all the time.
Oh.
It will do it correctly in the future.
Okay.
It's actually a very nice system. I saw a quick demo. I thought it was very nice. So we talked about the website. We've talked a little bit about how things are maybe not organized, how you all residents would be looking for information. And what we want to do a little bit better is get you to where you want to go faster. We started this process about a year ago, kind of evaluating. I talked about crisis communications. We're working on how to better communicate with our community in times of crisis and emergency. And we started an audit and we went down this road and we found out, hey, really there are some things about the site that make it hard to navigate during normal times. So imagine when you're anxious and you want your answers and you're stressed and you're trying to find the answers, it becomes even more stressful and more frustrating when you can't find the answer. We ran some tests, we did some traffic analysis, and we really found that what we needed to do was really redo the whole website. It needs a new navigation, it needs some new design, and in all of that, it needs to be cleaned up. You specifically, Larry, had asked about search.
I think the biggest problem with our search is we have 4,000 pages and 9,000 files on our site. They are not all the most up-to-date information. So sometimes when you get a search back today about an answer from 2020, it was not the answer I was looking for. So part of our work will be to clean up some of those old files, along with putting a better organization, a better.
Yeah, if you ever do a search with a number in it, you'll get every firehouse in town, no matter what you're looking for.
That's good to know. That's very good to know. We went through we ended up with some kind of initial blueprints for the new website. We tested them with one round. We got as far as we could on that low dollar contract, and we issued a high dollar contract RFP. Firm named Hugo and Cap, that is in New York, is the one who won the bid. They do some pretty heavy traffic, both consumer facing and government to consumer, government to resident websites, and they do it in a way that really helps us tell stories, to really capture what it is that's going on in the city, so that you can both get to the thing that you're looking for, which I think I said earlier was pay your water bill, or you're going to be able to find your next CAC meeting, we hope, just as easily. Is the idea of getting us into this new structure that you quickly get down the path that you need to go. We are negotiating our contract right now. We anticipate getting started before the end of the year. What they will first do is organize some focus groups and take a look at kind of walk through the site. We tested, when we did our testing, 10 key actions. It's everything from how do I sign up to speak at city council, to how do I book a basketball court, to where do I file a public records request. So there's a range of tasks. We'll go through that same process with 2 smaller focus groups to get some more qualitative data on navigation and adjust. And then we'll move forward with design and development of the new site. And it will be during that process as we get the design finalized, and we're working on all the coding behind the scene and all the templates and how they fit together, that we would be back out to talk to you all about, okay, here's how we put this together, and here's why we did it this way. And we'll be looking for the tells that are like, okay, that's going to not work for a lot of people. We're going to have to make that adjustment while we're in that development process. So we can make some final adjustments before we get to what a lot of people like to call the beta test, the thing that we do before it launches live. In which case, we're going to, again, run through some of the top things that people do on our website, but we'll also look for some of the many varied other things that they do on the site. The RaleighNC.gov website has what they call a long tail. We'll try to do the stats for you. If you start over here, we have pages that have a lot of traffic, and you'll see 100 or so of those, and then it just kind of drops, and then there's a long tail of pages that have 12, 15, 20 visitors a month. These up here are getting a few thousand or tens of thousands even, and these are getting a few dozen. So these pages over here are not any less useful than these over here. They're just more people visiting these pages. Right? So what we want to do is make sure most people are getting where they need to go. But for these people who are seeing those 12 pages, these 12 people, we've still got to serve them. We need to make sure that they can get where they're going as well. So that's the challenge of this website project, is to make sure we keep the big stuff front and center, but the smaller stuff or less visited stuff is still just as easy to find.
Is there a contact for something that's there today and gone tomorrow, and you still want to try to find it?
I think that's an excellent question. I don't have is your easy answer. But I think that as the new website goes towards launch, there will be exactly that question. Where do I find this page? While we will have the new website will be live on browsers, we will behind the scenes have the previous copy of the website still running, so we could find that page and get it back into production if it was something that we missed.
Okay.
Wayback Machine, Larry.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with the CACs was when the city essentially kicked us out in 2020, they archived everything off.
Yes.
Now that we're back, some of the links that were working, even though we didn't tell the city, we had some links about CACs that were still working. Well, this latest cleanup seems to have removed those as well. So yeah, I'd like to be able to just say, hey, this was working, this is where it sent you, and can we get it back?
It is also possible that some of that content moves to another page. So that might be the answer you get back.
I'm down in the 5s and 7s, not the thousands.
You're probably in the, you're probably in the hundreds, to be honest. I mean, some of
like whack-a-mole.
some of those things are very specific programs that we have that a few people attend. Or it's, there's a few pages we have that are very popular, that are old stories that have just gotten a lot of attention. One is a stormwater program page that everybody goes there from another website.
Is there going to be a way to filter the searches so you can put a second criteria in
Sure,
there?
let me talk a little bit about search. So there's a couple of things that we're doing with search. I said, number one, we need to clean up the site. That's going to be your biggest improvement in search whatsoever. We are also right now testing both the AI plugin for Cluedo, which is the tool that powers our search on the website. That would look a lot when you search on Google and you get the AI summary at the top of the page. We think that the answer to your question is this, and it's based on these 3 pages. And then there would be your search results underneath. We're testing that internally right now because it's not working perfectly. And we'd like it to be working a lot better if we want to find the biggest mistakes before we put that out there. And then same kind of chatbot, which actually seems to be performing a little better than the search plugin for AI, to ask it questions. And if you use the right language, you're getting the right answer on the right page. So one of those 2 things you will probably see before the launch of the new website. That should get you, but you're only going to see it if you think it's going to get you to your page you need faster. As that would be kind of our criteria before pushing it. And I'm, like I said, I'll have much more information in a few months, but thoughts, concerns, things you'd love to see on the site, I would be very open to hearing those this evening.
What's the timeline for the reopening of the site?
It should be a 7 to 8 month project once we get the contract signed. We're hoping to have that done mid-November, so I would say mid-August, 1st of September. Karen's, I did say I was going to talk about customer experience management. There will be a portal that links from the website, and there's 2 as she develops her portal and I develop our website. We're going to be working together to make sure that they work together. So you might be on a page and your question is better answered in the portal, and that link would be obvious there. There is a section on our new site. It's called How Do I? And questions, that the most frequent questions populate that menu. It's possible in the future that those questions would come from the customer experience portal, what people are asking most frequently, or what's trending in the last week. When leaf collection starts, it's a great example of when that just kind of skyrockets on the site. So some of those things that are current would be more accessible and more visible for someone coming to the site. You start typing in Google, a letter of a search, and whatever everybody else is looking at right now suddenly populates. That would be the idea of how it would work. We're very hopeful. I don't want to overpromise, but we're very hopeful that it makes a step forward. Yes, sir.
In the development of the AI, the automation, just out of curiosity, as part of the customer experience, what is it looking like to either increase capable bodies to take a phone call, or is it truly to just let Nancy answer all the calls that can't make it through the automated system?
I've done Karen a disservice here. She is also working towards staffing a live body call center, a live person to answer your call. At first, that's going to be normal business hours. But then over time, we see again how popular it was, and how into the evening, a little earlier in the morning, that would be. And then we also, my team is working with Karen quite closely on when there's an emergency. The easiest example is a hurricane, and everybody needs to know after it's passed when you come in to pick up my tree limbs. So those kinds of questions we would have. We don't want to call it the non-emergency call center, but that's basically what it is. So when an event happens and there's a lot of calls coming in, we would have people there staffing that to answer questions, which would be an extension of her normal call center that she's working towards setting up.
I see, Western North Carolina is a great example.
Yes, absolutely.
When their comms went out,
Right.
I'm sure, I bet those folks had some landlines still, so.
Some of them, we don't know, we heard, we've had a couple of things since I've started with the city. It was about a year and a half ago, I didn't introduce myself. But we have had a couple of times that landlines have gone out in certain parts of the city, and we had to post a quick notice about that and share on social media. So, yeah. Yes. So there was at 1.7 thousand copper lines were down, and if they did not have cell service, they had no 911 access, which was why we were sharing. Yeah. You don't think about that this much anymore.
Well, you got us really excited. We're looking forward to the new improved version.
I'm looking forward to it, and I would love to touch base back with you about focus groups.
That'd be terrific. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. All right, Sarah, yes. You should be able to share. Let's see here. Oh, how about that?
Great.
I love when I don't have to do anything technical. It's great.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you that I haven't met yet, I'm Sarah Shaughnessy. I'm a principal planner in the Planning and Development Department, and I am the project manager for our next comprehensive plan. So I'm here to talk to you about that tonight. Just a quick overview of what I'll touch on. I'll share a little bit of information about our current comprehensive plan. I know most of you are pretty active in the CAC, so you probably already know a bit about that. But we have a current plan in place that provides policy guidance through the year 2030. So we're working on starting an update to that. So we have new policy in place as we approach the decades beyond 2030. The plan was adopted in 2009, and a lot has changed in Raleigh in the last 15 years. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I wanted to share sort of generally what we're anticipating as far as the themes of the process and the themes of the final document. Again, very much a work in progress, and it'll be a 2.5-year process with lots of public input. So I'll share some about that. Share information about the timeline, and then share a little bit of information about our engagement framework and opportunities for you to participate and weigh into the policy development.
Larry, you're going to have to feed, I think.
What?
Yeah, it's not advancing my slides for some reason.
Oh. I don't know if, did I stop sharing? All right, well, let's see what happens here. Let's take hers. Let's take Karen's off first. Okay.
I can share again. I stopped sharing.
Yeah, let me make sure you're capable of sharing
It
here.
looks like I was.
Yeah, you did it automatically. That's what.
It just wasn't advancing that. Okay, well, there we go. Maybe I'll just stay on this non-presentation mode if that's all right with you all. So the comprehensive plan is the long-term vision for the built environment. It's actually required by North Carolina state law in order to enforce our zoning code and development regulations. And it really lays out sort of what the built form in Raleigh should be, what future land use map designations properties have, where development should focus, what uses should be in which places. And sort of it's currently very comprehensive, as a comprehensive plan you would expect to be. So there are 5 vision themes that sort of guide a lot of our policies.
Sarah, see if you have control back.
Great. Let's see if I do this. No. Okay. It's.
You may have to actually share your screen. I'm not sure why it's up there, but.
All right. Maybe I'll just hang out here. I think I can advance them. Yeah. Do it this way. So the content in the current comprehensive plan is really quite broad. There are 18 different sections, over 1,100 different policies, and over 1,000 different actions. So that's really a lot to keep track of. And I'll talk a little bit about some of our progress as a city and development sort of in our internal regulatory framework. But just to give some information about the current comprehensive plan, there are 30 different area plans. The Midtown plan is one of those.
Yep.
And the comprehensive plan includes a number of really important policy elements, including our growth framework, our future land use map, our urban form map, and the street plan. So lots of maps about what development should look like in the future. And again, it's a guidance document, it's a policy document, it's not regulatory, but staff evaluate a lot of our rezoning. The requests we get to rezone property against the adopted policy in the comprehensive plan. So it also has sort of funding implications. It has sort of long-term, how we can achieve growth in the future and what that should look like incrementally. So there are a lot of reasons why you want to have a comprehensive plan that really speaks to what development currently looks like, what the city wants it to look like in the future, and how we sort of get there incrementally as a community.
It's only 500 and more pages long, but it has a great search engine.
So as I mentioned, the original plan was adopted in 2009, so 15 years ago. It did undergo an update from 2014. That was adopted in 2019. But as all of you know, Raleigh has changed a lot in the last 15 years and a lot in the last 5 years. We've experienced on average a 1.2 increase in population. So we're growing in terms of people. Since we've been tracking sort of regularly the amount of acres that we annex or that we bring into the city from the county to provide city services to, we've annexed 4,000 acres. So that's since 2019. And then since 2017, and these numbers are a few months out of date, so it may be even more than that at this point. We've rezoned, and I say we, I mean City Council and the Raleigh community, over 5,000 acres, and most of those are for additional height, more intense uses, additional residential density. So all that to say, Raleigh is growing. It's growing in terms of population, we're growing in terms of land consumption, and we're also growing in terms of infill to accommodate that new population. As I mentioned, we also have a number of changes sort of in our policy and regulatory context. So there have been some changes in state annexation laws. I believe they were put in place in 2013, so after the original plan was adopted, which only allow annexation to be driven by property owner request. So the city cannot involuntarily annex property. And that's important because it sort of dictates how the city provides services. We can do it now on sort of a piecemeal basis, but we can't sort of wait until there are a bunch of properties that want to be brought into city limits at the same time. And if you've been thinking about sort of from a utility perspective, somebody who's drawing or extending utility lines or water lines, that it is more expensive to do it on a piecemeal basis. So it impacts sort of our patchwork growth framework. So that's an important thing to think about. We have a city strategic plan now. So that is sort of a 3 to 5 year time horizon, provides a bunch of goals for the city across the city in that time period. We didn't have that in place in 2009. And then there are really robust department business plans that lay out their own goals and objectives for the city. And then lastly, or one of the additional changes is we have a revised stormwater design manual that was just adopted, I think, a couple of weeks ago, working on a revised public utilities handbook. So there are also additional technical documents that are being revised. So all that to say, we really want to, with this process, develop a comprehensive plan that references and refers to those documents, but doesn't necessarily duplicate that information. Some additional changes, and I'll just touch on these. See an increased emphasis in multimodal inclusivity. So, we're investing a lot in public transit and BRT, where people want to walk and bike. The city has a Vision Zero program sort of focused on pedestrian and cyclist safety, reducing traffic deaths and serious injuries. An increased emphasis on housing diversity and choice, and a component of that is to increase housing affordability. Increased emphasis on racial equity, I think, across the planning profession, really across the nation. Same thing, increased emphasis on sustainability and resilience planning. And then finally, changes just in how people move around cities. Since 2020, more people are working from home or they have a hybrid work schedule. So people aren't traveling as predictably sort of at peak morning hours, evening hours. as they were before. So just, how do we plan our transportation systems and how do we anticipate where people are going? So some major themes sort of given all of that change. One, we expect an emphasis on equity, specifically by making housing and business opportunities accessible to everyone in Raleigh. Two, the sustainable provision of infrastructure and services, sustainable both from an environmental perspective, but also from a financial perspective. We, I think as city employees, believe that we provide a pretty high quality of service for most people. And there's a relatively low tax rate. So how do we continue to provide that high quality service as we grow and as we have more people to serve? What does that look like? And then finally, again, I mentioned there are a number, the strategic plan, department business plans. How do we align with those plans and with the budget in a really meaningful way? So generally the timeline, I said it's going to be a 2.5-year process. Anticipating bringing this to council at the end of 2027 for adoption. We're dividing this into 5 phases. The first phase really focused on public engagement. Second phase, plan development. Third phase, plan drafting. Final phase of public engagement, and then again bringing that forward for review and adoption. So right now we are in the middle, actually kind of at the beginning of phase 1. Which is structured around 6 big community conversations on 6 core themes, themes that we hear a lot from the community about. So those are affordable housing, stormwater, transportation and mobility or traffic issues, infrastructure and services, trees, tree canopy, environmental resources, and neighborhood change. So we're organizing 6, what we're calling them community conversations, sort of speaking events and then opportunities for some dialogue with staff and with each other, and then a series of Ask a Planner events. So I did leave some information on the back table there about the plan generally and then our upcoming community conversation, which is focused on stormwater. So please take one of those, share. We are also making a big effort to meet community members and residents where they already are. So offering to host events and invite people, but also, going to people. So going to CAC meetings, talking to boards and commissions. We've been to a number of Halloween events at city community centers. So just trying to, reach people, especially people that we don't talk to very often or that haven't participated in planning processes before. So these are the community conversations I mentioned. Again, six major themes, I think all themes of equity and sustainability kind of woven throughout there. So we had an affordable housing summit in August. We partnered with Housing and Neighborhoods to host that. The recording is still available. All the presentations are available if you're interested in, if you didn't get to attend and you want to check that out. And then we're gearing up for, like I said, a community conversation in early December. So there'll be 2 evenings at Martin Street Baptist Church. First event is on December 4th, which is a Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. We'll have a keynote speaker, Ted Brown from Biohabitats will be speaking. He is an ecologist and a writer who works in Maryland and the Chesapeake Bay region. So sort of talking about stormwater issues, stormwater practice, and then we'll have on December 9th, Wayne Miles and Reverend Jamont Taylor, who is, Wayne is the stormwater program manager, and Jamont is the chair of the Stormwater Advisory Commission, gives sort of a state of the city presentation. So taking some of those larger themes and relating them back to Raleigh, and then followed up by a facilitated community conversation. And all of that information will feed into the goals and visions for the next comprehensive plan. And we'll have 4 additional events on different themes in the remaining year. So that's sort of our core for our engagement process in phase 1. Phase 2 will be developing with 2 different groups of people. One, technical working groups. So those might be city staff, local practitioners, representatives from each of the boards and commissions who can speak to each of these areas. So transportation, stormwater, housing from a subject matter expertise perspective. And then we are working on standing up what we're calling a citizen assembly, which is a group of 40 to 60 people that is meaningfully representative of the city's demographic composition. So we're going to work with a consultant team who has expertise in developing this and facilitating this type of engagement. So one way that you can participate in addition to coming to the community conversations and taking surveys and chatting with us and sharing your ideas is to keep an eye out for an invitation to join the citizen assembly and letting other people know that that's an opportunity that might be available to you.
Good.
Yeah, sure.
Just ask. I've participated in more, but two specifically that I'd like to comment on. They were community engagement events to allow participation and thoughts from the community who pay the taxes that the city spends. And one was a pizza party at Kroger, where they gave everyone pizza. And you didn't miss anything. So I went, and Lubin was there as well. He stayed. I had another event. I left, but there was no engagement. There was no dialogue. There was no questions accepted from the community. It was a presentation. It was free pizza, and it was just like, this is what's going on. Eat the pizza, move along. It was not asking for comments. It was not. Anyway, and then the other one was at a community center senior facility, community facility over in 5 Points.
Senior center.
Senior center. Yeah, and so this was an event where we were all set at different tables. There was someone taking notes of all the things we had to say, but we were assigned tasks at each table, and then we all got mixed up. I mean, it was like kindergarten where we're all running around. You got a bunch of taxpayers making a fair amount of money, and we were told to just run around different tables, and we're only allowed to ask certain questions. I mean, it was demeaning. It was. I mean, the people that set this up are getting paid $1 million.
As a city employee, I'm pretty sure that's not true.
6 or 7. No, that's the budget. That's the budget.
So can our consultants.
$1 million
Contract.
per year. And so I was dismayed. So I just find people in the city that I can contact, or I go to city council and or I talk to WRAL or a news station. I'm not getting anything in these community engagement sessions. So I'm really.
Yeah, that's why we're thrilled when you come to a CAC meeting.
Yeah.
No, and I'm just saying.
I don't let them out the door. That's why we lock the door. We don't let them out.
If
only you had pizza.
I have to remember that
I
one.
have had a similar.
Sarah, did you get
Okay.
that note? Pizza next time?
Yeah, Bronwyn, my colleague there, is back there taking notes, so.
I've got a comment on that too.
Sure.
So a while back, they had these listening sessions with the police department. And you went in there and they were, at that time, they were looking at a policy change to have, when someone's mentally ill or something on that, or how to engage and everything. And so we read through the policy. You weren't allowed to really discuss anything other than just make a comment on it. And the minute, like, I made a second comment, it was like they just got, it's just sort of like, check, we had a listening session here, and there was not really any real discussion on what was going on there and stuff. And I don't know if they're even still doing that, but to me, it wasn't a really productive type thing.
I'll step in here. Since I did not introduce myself, I'm Robin Deacle. I'm the communications director for the city. And I think this is a big conversation that has really gone up the ranks of the city. We say engagement when we need information. We have a lot in the past. And I think we've got to acknowledge that. So I'm at least going to acknowledge here. That was an informational meeting. That was us telling you what we're doing. Plain and simple. I'll acknowledge that. And I think that what we are trying to do is work more broadly across the city so that everybody understands, staff and the community, that sometimes we have decided, or city council has directed, and we're out in the community explaining what's going to happen, educating what's going to happen next. And then there are times, I think there are specifically parks, and Sarah, you might have some good examples for how you all are going to engage in this process, that there is an opportunity for residents to get their input, for us to take that and turn it into something. A parks plan is a very good example of where engagement, it actually is engagement. So I can just say, we'll try to be more mindful of that going forward. And
choose your words a little more carefully.
I think you're right.
If it's informational, it's
Right, we need to
informational.
say
It's not engagement.
I agree with that.
And
I agree.
engagement has become a big buzzword all over your website.
Right.
It doesn't mean what it says.
I agree. I agree. We're not doing a good job yet, but we will keep working on it. Okay?
As I said, we're optimistic.
I have a comment on that too, in the park planning. All these concepts are already there, and they're they listen to the conversation, but they know where they want to go, so it's doing you no good to make your efforts known.
Every one of them I've ever been to, that's how it is.
Yeah.
They don't really want to hear what you want to tell them. They don't want to hear your input, your problem, your
It might be
disagreement,
different than
et
what they
cetera.
want.
They just want to tell you what they decided and get you to rubber stamp it, and then they call it engagement and call it.
Who do you all think they is in that?
City.
Is it the
It's
city
the
or
city.
contractors, the city staff, you think?
City
Well,
staff.
both.
No, well,
Oh,
I think it's
Anybody.
a culture coming from the top down.
Yeah.
And the city employees probably want to do the right stuff, but they're sort of constrained. I mean, at least that's was the impression on that one thing. I was on that, the guys that were, the police officers that were rolling it out really didn't have it. It's going to get through this and get comments and, okay, we're out of here.
I think that is, I came most recently from DHHS, who did really well during COVID, not perfectly, but really truly engaging with the community, and that's what the community delivering it. And I think when an agency does that, it is successful.
The other thing along the lines with the police is, and it's hard to do now because we don't have the number of police that we need. They're always just on calls all the time, but having a regular engagement with the officers in different sections of town and build relationships, which I think is going to steer us from getting into a lot of trouble down the road if we can start getting some relationship building with the officers and the folks. But you gotta, there's an issue there. We gotta have enough, which is a separate thing. But when we get that, we need to try to do this better job with that.
I really appreciate that city staff is one of the working groups, and I hope that y'all get that down to the frontline level. Because I feel like sometimes those of us that are on the front line, we have those working relationships with the citizens a little bit stronger than some folks that are in management that have the vision. And, we need that combination. And so I hope that it makes its way down to the frontline staff.
Yeah, at the same time, it's a two-way kind of thing, okay? How big is the Midtown CAC?
Well, in theory, we're one of the largest. It's actually like 40,000 people. But do we touch 40,000 people? No. Right.
Part of this thing is also, it's tough for a city
Correct.
We had this conversation before.
Right.
It becomes a two-way kind of thing where, you gotta sort of do the, where we gotta opt in, okay? And one of the problems you have in a city type operation is that people don't get engaged until something annoys them.
I always say you hit them in the wallet, then they pay attention.
Right. So, it's, the communications thing to a broader group is very, very difficult.
It is.
You look at what we went through with the Midtown St. Albans plant, right? I mean, there was some really good outreach, there was a really good turnout. And quite frankly, there was the, what was the recent one down at the Senior Citizen Center about the Greenway?
Mhm.
And quite frankly, city staff was there, they manned a bunch of stations. And I had some great conversations with some of them, including one discussion about what wasn't on a map. So it is the difficult part of riling people up to get engaged, okay? Because, the engagement thing's really cool, everybody likes it. But at the same time, until you poke somebody, sometimes you don't get them.
Yeah, and I think you're all.
It's not a staff, the thing is, I don't want to see people picking on staff about it. Staff listens.
Staff,
for the most
to me,
part,
staff is
very
great.
responsive. Right, Linda? So,
From a CAC standpoint, I get along, I think, very well with staff. I've never had anybody refuse to give me information or come out to see us. That's what makes us click. It's when you go a little higher is where things start to break down a little bit. And then you're right, you get more policy than you do feedback and conversation. So like we're having today about the comp plan. Now, what I wanted to ask is, I happen to be one of the people that actually reviewed the full comp plan last time around. But where did those comments go? It was like they went into the valley and the river came along and swept them right along. So I'm hoping that whatever process you guys follow, that there is accountability so you can see what people are actually asking for, capture it, and then it turns into something, and not just go out to, what typically happens is it goes out to a contractor to help write the report, and things show up in the report that we've never seen before, but it becomes the final product. That happened with the Midtown plan. So today, I mean, it's a great document, and I'm kind of glad it went the direction it went. It just that it was partially developed by the contractor and partially developed by the people that had the input. So it was a nice blend, but it would have been nice if it was all in the works. I'm hoping that before you get too far along, that there's like a skeleton document, not necessarily with all the fine print or all the direction you're going, but something so people can see an overview of what it will look like. And hopefully that would be not too far down the road, maybe.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that transparency and accountability are very important, and we are planning to make keep everything on the website, whatever new form it takes. We have a project page, publish the sort of meetings and sort of reporting documents from each of these groups developing policy, allow opportunities to comment, post meeting minutes, post the summaries from the community conversations so that people can see what they've said and what other people have said. Because I agree with you that a big part of the engagement and not just information is showing that you've heard the information and that you're going to do something with it, or explaining to people why you can't do anything with the information they've provided.
Well, you hit it on the head. Going out to the populations, like, being downtown at a church is great, but I'm not going to ride down there, especially at night. If it was a day event, maybe I would, but not at night. I wouldn't do it. So just all I'm saying is getting out, getting around town is terrific. Good idea.
Can I add one more thing to that transparency when we get conversation? I find that there's a lot of leading questions in the surveys. They're structured in a way that is intended to funnel you down an answer path, as opposed to just an open-ended survey that allows people to express concerns, priorities, preferences. But a lot of things get structured in a way that feels manipulative in what they're trying to get for results. So I'll just
Yeah, that's helpful feedback. I'll add that we do try to structure, we want to be able to do something with the information that you provide to us.
I'm an analytics person for
Yeah.
a living,
Okay,
so.
but yeah, point well taken. I'll try to provide that.
Are you done with those slides?
I have just one more. So again, 5 phases, ongoing engagement, you know, coming to meetings like this in addition to our community conversations, doing pop-up events, going to other neighborhood groups. And there are a lot of people who participate in other organizations that aren't CAC. So we're happy to go wherever we're invited. And, you know, we're doing some proactive outreach as well. Yeah, I think that's it. I have my contact information here again. I left some materials on the table by the sign-in sheet. We also have an email, the project email that gets checked by multiple staff. You can always email me directly, but also email reflecting@raleighnc.gov, which may or may not be easier to remember than mine. So that's it. Yeah.
If I wanted to search for something on the new comprehensive
You
plan.
can search
what is the
comprehensive,
name?
Reflecting Raleigh. So it'll come up next comprehensive, if you search next comprehensive plan, it'll come
Yeah,
up. if you just
the
search
title is
comprehensive.
actually in the agenda, so you can,
Excuse me?
the title for their project is actually in the agenda, Reflecting Raleigh.
Oh,
So
That's
what's
the-
the email?
new comprehensive
Yeah.
plan,
What's the project? That's great.
project created. Thank you.
Reflecting@raleighnc.gov. And then my name is on the agenda. I think if my contact information is also on the flyers in the back. If you want that, yeah.
It's not questions.
Yeah.
I just read a book this year about the French Revolution, so the Citizen Assembly sparked my attention there. Has the city outlined, okay, this is gonna be the purpose of this assembly, and this is gonna be the result of what comes out of that assembly? So I think that speaks to the engagement side. If you pull a bunch of citizens together and they're all asking for the exact same thing, is it gonna hold water? Or is it not gonna hold water? And is there a policy written that says, okay, this will be the result of this citizen assembly action?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So we have never done, planning and development at least has never convened a citizen assembly before. We're sort of learning how to do this. We just actually went and sent one of our staff and then a staff member from the Office of Community Engagement to a training, a 3-day training in Phoenix to learn sort of from the experts who do this. So we're planning to learn from them and then also hire a contractor who does, like hire a specialist who does this and who has experience to help us figure out, okay, how are we going to recruit? How are we going to structure the sessions and lay out sort of the ground rules or policies so that we can exactly what you said, sort of be accountable and take the information that we receive and use it to meaningfully contribute to our plan.
So yeah, I just wonder if, you know, on some of those things, like, I mean, I'm sure we have an attorney somewhere who's like a parliamentarian, for example, you know, to help say, hey, here's how these things are structured. And that would do it just to help the city and to help their fellow citizens. And then maybe we're not spending so much money on a contractor to just spend it, whereas you may have like resources right here at home that would be happy to help, that would want to help if they knew that you were looking for the help, if that makes sense.
Sure.
It does beg the question, you know, with staff being down, you know, we talk about the police shortage. I also know that the planning staff is short also in terms of people. And I just can't see how you guys can spend so much time on a major project like the comp plan. And yet, you know, we're fortunate that right now development as a whole is on hold. If we go back like 2 years when everything was really ramping up and everything is kind of finished now, sitting on the books, but eventually when that city starts to turn around a little bit, the question becomes, they're going to have the staff to handle all the new development projects and to oversee the ones that are already approved that haven't come out of the ground yet. It's kind of scary that I'm not so sure that.
Well, the current plan times out in 2030, so I don't know that we have a choice about doing a new comprehensive plan. I will say that it's my full-time job to manage this project, and I'm working with staff across the organization for support. You know, we have a couple of new staff and more people joining us on the comprehensive planning team. So I think we're confident that we can execute and still manage our regular operational roles.
Good.
I will add, you talked about a relatively low tax rate. I was surprised to learn that my property taxes are the same as my parents in Massachusetts. So I would say that we no longer have a relatively low tax rate.
It does depend on who you compare yourself to.
Yeah.
North Carolina.
Yeah, we'll talk about the budget at some point.
But, yeah, the only thing about the contractors, and it goes back to, unfortunately, a lot of distrust has been generated in the last 4 years. And the contractors are not adding to it. It's almost like they're bringing in their own agenda. So hopefully that won't be yet another layer that you're kind of struggling through to get, to have your voice heard and then see a response come back. And I kept raising my hand because I wanted to say, I thought the Midtown project went a long way for probably the best example of plan that I've seen, because I had to live through the Six Forks project. So it really seemed to have learned from that.
I'll tell Jason.
Yeah. Bring him back.
And he is responsible for it.
Yeah, bring him back.
But there was an aspect of it, like Larry said, that there was stuff going on behind the curtain. So it went a long way.
Yep.
The city government or state government has employees that a lot have moved out of downtown. And we have really a crisis with business downtown of being in trouble. And no matter how many downtown events that keep the red hat downtown, all that, it's never going to be enough money to keep these businesses going. So with this comprehensive plan, is there a push to start developing unused property downtown and seeing if we can work with the state to get state property that's underutilized over to us, and also to, and we talked about this with One Wake and everything, it's Nehemiah project to build affordable housing downtown. I know we're going to get the high-end housing downtown, that's good, we need it at all levels, but with the affordable housing, where, and I don't know, to me, I don't want to see housing projects. I want to see us doing the type of things where affordable housing on city property is released, that people can start owning their own housing downtown. And, maybe we do some counseling and we've got some field there to help you get qualified low-income families into housing, and then they got a fixed housing project. I'm sorry, fixed housing payment each month for 30 years rather than, getting into leases and affordable housing projects. So can you say anything about that?
Sure, yeah. Are you familiar with the Moore Square redevelopment? So we have a division within my department, planning and development, called the Urban Projects Group. One of their roles is to facilitate public-private partnerships. Real estate is part of that division, and so they've been working with housing and neighborhoods to do exactly what you said, to acquire properties that the city could put out for bid to affordable housing developers, or sometimes it's a mixed-use development with an affordable housing about that affordable housing can be developed in a financially sustainable way. So I think the limiting factor is budget, and just like, the amount of money that the city has to buy and acquire the property. But I think that's definitely on the table. And that's
but what about the property that's not being used? I mean, there's 300 acres over here at Dorothy Dix Park. Can we not use some of that for affordable housing? That may not be the plan right now, but I know there's unused city property, and we can also go to the state and see if we can work with them on releasing property over to us. And,
yeah, I think those are exactly the kind of questions that we'll be asking throughout this process. I can't answer those for you today.
Yeah.
That's
above
why
my
I'm
pay
bringing,
grade,
no, I'm
but.
not asking you to
Yeah.
answer, but I'm sort of giving input.
Sure,
as to,
yeah, no, I
can we
appreciate that.
start looking at these things so that we can, and that's what the Nehemiah project that we were presented with was all about. But the first thing they wanted is, okay, we want $70 million a year. Well, that tells me we're talking about building housing projects that people are gonna rent. And to me, what we need to do is to at least in a large part work on home ownership. And that's what they did in New York. That was the Nehemiah project. But
Whitney, I
that's input.
want to try to focus it back for Sarah, because it sounds like you're directing questions that could be directed to council, which
Oh, yeah, I know.
you know, Christina is
I'm
online.
asking, but I'm also giving input, you know.
Yeah, I know. But I do have a question. You raised a good point, though. We had a recent situation where there was an affordability policy in the Midtown area plan. And people questioned whether that policy should have been strengthened perhaps before it got into the Midtown area plan. Well, at its time, it actually was probably the only area plan, still is the only area plan with affordability in it. Correct me if I'm wrong. So there was a question that was put to council is maybe we should take an action against Midtown area plan and revise this policy. Well, fortunately, there were sane minds around today, and we recognized that if that change was going to occur, it would come in the next rewrite of the comp plan, because it's a bigger issue. It's not just the Midtown plan, it's a policy that has to be created for affordability that should be within the comp plan. It's the place for it, it's the policy recommendations. And that's what I always live by, if you will, is the comp plan, and always going up to planning and saying, hey, you guys do have your ordinances, but at the same time, here's the guidance that you're providing in the comp plan, and that's taking a lesser role than what's being actually provided in the ordinances. It's a constant battle between the two. And I'm hoping moving forward, maybe with a new development of the comp plan, the two will actually fit together better than they do currently. Because right now you can have a development come up in front of planning and it can fit and it can meet all of the ordinances, but be inconsistent with the comp plan. But that being said, the comp plan is guidance, and that's where the shortcoming is. It's more for us, it's more than guidance. It's something that's an input from the people to help write, and yet it's lost when they write the ordinances, and it's that constant battle. So that's what I'm looking for with the new comp plan, is to have a lot of input into it, but also make sure that it mates well with the ordinances and not putting ordinances into the comp plan. So.
But part of it too is the survival of our city. And if we can't house our people at all levels, I mean, that's.
Yeah, I know, but
but
that's a bigger problem. Sarah's not going to solve that for you.
Yeah.
Maybe I misunderstood, but I thought when you all evaluated any proposal for rezoning, you're required by state law to compare it against the comp plan. They have to match.
They do, but they're
We do
weighted.
evaluate it against the comprehensive plan.
Okay,
I
so
don't,
I am right.
yes,
Okay.
that's part of our process.
Yeah, but they're weighted.
They are weighted, and then the ordinances make it very confusing.
Right.
If they don't align.
Right.
Well.
Yeah, so a rezoning is generally a change to the ordinance. That's the regulatory side, and the comp plan is the policy guidance. So sometimes, I mean, it's a legislative decision that council makes. So, you know, we say that it's consistent or inconsistent with adopted policy, and then let it make its way through
Right.
for the process.
But it is a requirement. It's a
Yes.
state requirement.
Still is.
I don't know if I'll have to get back to you to determine if
I
that's a
think
state
it is. It's a
requirement.
change.
I think it still is.
Okay.
A while back now, it may have been undone.
Yeah, I'm with Matt. I agree with Matt. I think it still is.
Is the Moore Square one of my favorite restaurants is there? Vic's Italian.
Yes.
Is it Moore Square?
Yes.
Right? Reasonable price food, amazing food, big portions, wonderful. And so I'm thinking, okay, here comes this new development. It's gonna be probably a luxury based something, because I feel like that's all we're seeing being built now is luxury. So those small businesses that are gonna be in that surrounding, when you're discussing like private, public partnerships. I'm wondering how far that goes to actually protect the ecosystem around those developments, because I feel like downtown, even in our local smaller shopping centers, you're seeing more vacancies, and then you're seeing it just as holdouts. So either there's a portfolio situation from the landlord, or maybe there's a chain. I think Celebration Station, the guy held open half of the shopping center and kept it vacant for hoping an Aldi's was gonna come in. So, I mean, I get it, if you're a landlord, they gotta do their thing, but when you say public-private partnership, it makes me think there's collaboration, there's some communication of, okay, hey, here's what, we don't wanna impact the rest of the ecosystem. So is that part of when you're having these conversations with developers? Do you talk about the ecosystem, and do you?
Yeah, so I'm not part of those conversations. That's a separate division, but I'm happy to follow up with you, and I can share with Larry. There's some, updated information about the proposal for development on the site, and that's, I think it's been presented to City Council a couple of times as it makes its way through the development process. But that is a great point. I know, like for example, for the stationary planning, which I did work on, supporting the small businesses along the corridor is an important part of those plans, and thinking about, okay, who lives here already, who already owns a business here, how do we support them during construction and after the new investment has been made and is fully realized, so that they don't get displaced. So I hear you on that. That's a good point.
Oh, that speaks on the top. Well, his son just opened his own little pizzeria on Glenwood. It took him almost a year to get all his permitting done.
Sorry, it's me.
So, but now he's open, so at the end of Glenwood, where Charter was.
I want to get to Christina, so,
Okay.
no, go ahead, ask your question.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, and bringing up Celebration, it does seem like some of these places just told out. I mean, my favorite bar and grill where I could walk to at the Sawmill Tap Room, they weren't allowed to continue their lease. Now it's been sitting there for a year and a half or whatever. And they're probably going to sit there another 3 years before they do anything with it and get a franchise in there, something like that. And to me, when you've got commercial property, you've sort of got an obligation, especially when you see the places that are open. The parking lots are all filled up. They can't find a parking spot. And then the Celebration is one of the best examples. There's like half the stores have been down, and there's got to be some kind of way we can have some sort of incentive or some sort of working with these landlords to.
Well, all I can say is challenge the new council and the new mayor.
That's why I'm running. But anyway, I'm just giving input on that. It will, the new council, but also, the administration, there can be some sort of, push too from that end as well,
Yeah, let me ask the question, when we get into retail space, how is that the city's thing? I understand the housing, but we were looking at 12 Corners, for example, that had like 5 vacancies not too long ago. They're banked out right now, except for the bike shop, which they decided to move because they had another site. So I get that. They didn't want to have 2 sites.
No, that's an area that sooner or later the city's gonna have to address. I've seen it in other places where that's what happens, is that you have the new improved, yet the smaller shopping areas.
Small franchises up there.
Yeah.
There is no, at 12 Corners right now, there is no
Chain.
There's no chain.
Right.
There's no chain there. Okay, so, sometimes the market needs to work itself out.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate it.
Well, it's like Vic's. The Vic's is on Lake Boone Trail.
Right.
Like Vic's is great on Lake Boone Trail. In
So
addition
I
to
guess
downtown,
my
same
point
family.
is I get that thing, but I see it totally separate from a city issue in terms of how.
No, how do you protect the older, long-standing businesses while the new, improved, fancy, expensive ones are coming online? It's a quandary, it's a problem.
Right.
But I would see, and this is a point of philosophy, I guess, that
we're
having commercially
straying.
zoned retail land, there is an obligation here that there should be something there to serve the public. And I believe in property rights too, but you just can't have commercially zoned land vacant for long
this is all great conversation, but I'm kind of try to,
I wanna so my point of concern was the private-public partnership, not just the independent shopping center owner on a corner, but I do know.
well, the more square one is, there's a lot of interest in the more square. That's the city's pride and joy coming about. I think it's what, 200 affordable units, I think. It's a massive.
Focus on housing, that's my point. It's focused on housing.
Correct.
It's not about who's gonna have a nice bar. Nobody misses a walkable tavern and sports.
No,
bar.
all I'm saying is, yes, you're right. There's more to focus on besides just the affordable housing.
But if I could just remind you, in the back of our neighborhood where the butcher's market is, the guy who owns a shopping center bought the houses right next to the shopping center, so
Right.
he had no one to contest it. And then he leveled the houses and now it's growing the shopping center.
Right.
So you can't think one's not tied to the other, because if the commercial investor can buy the houses that might be affordable, go to the city and say, hey, I want to rezone this now so I can have a larger, more empty shopping center. There's a conflict of interest there, I think. And so that's my concern with the partnership.
Yeah.
I'm curious if the city addresses that ecosystem scenario when they're engaging in partnership with the private sector.
It's a great point. Okay.
Okay.
Sarah, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, I try to keep it contained, but Sarah, thank you very much. I think everybody appreciated and probably wanted even more information than you could give them.
Thank you for hearing.
Christina, you still with us? Let me check here.
Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, and you're unmuted. Great.
Yes.
I'd like to give you some time with all the questions that have been coming up here. I think they're more suited for you than they are for Sarah. Did a great job with most of them. But
Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add into the conversation?
Sure. And I will say you might have to repeat those questions because it was hard to hear since there wasn't a microphone. I couldn't always hear unless it was you speaking. So we'll get to those questions in just a second. I want to touch base on the things that we talked about tonight. And one of them starting off with the community engagement and the website conversation. That's the presentation that we received as well. So I'm excited for what's to come, but there are lots of questions that I know you guys touched on with AI that we also brought up. So definitely stay tuned in because we are very interested in what they're doing with that. Excited as well because we've seen those see-click fix problems. So hopefully this will begin to address that. But I think a really great point was brought up when we were talking about community engagement and we were saying what those touch points are. Those are the questions that I specifically ask whenever we do these. And what is unclear is which kind of engagement they're doing at any given point. So when we ask for a community engagement, let's say with Red Hat, this last one, we asked for that and it was a touch point. It was informational. And I definitely agree that moving forward, we need to be very specific and clear when we're asking for it, which kind of engagement we're looking for. Because I totally understand the feedback of it being very conversational and less conversational and more information. And I agree. So I want to make sure that that's stronger as we move into this. As we talk about the comp plan, and all of this moving forward, all these meetings, please be engaged because these questions are fantastic. And I want to be able to raise them and lift them at council so that we're having a more nuanced and well-rounded discussion. I was not part of the first comp plan or the last one. So very interested to see. I heard it was great engagement and we want to make it better than that. We want to make it even more forward facing and clear for everyone to understand so that we're really making this about the community. So please be as involved. Whoever the new council is after next week, make sure you're on them and making sure to find out when those meetings are because it's very, very important. This is what we end up changing. I think we referenced it earlier that the rezonings are changing to this plan. So when we saw an uptick of all of that, that was changing a plan that was already set. And we're getting to do that right now. what I'm going to be looking for as we have these conversations about the comp plan are what are the guardrails? What is it when we say, okay, this is completely different? You know, is it getting 200 rezonings in a year, or not that happened, but, you know, an X amount of, and I feel that in different policies, whether we talked about missing middle or any, a lot of we don't really put guardrails in. So it's hard to track our progress and to track our success. And those are the kinds of things that we need to do as council, a better job of implementing and setting in place at the beginning. So like right now, as we look out at processes, because we've learned that looking backwards it's much harder to fix something than it is to, you know, set the plan in place from the beginning. So I think you've had a lot of great conversation tonight, things that we are doing on council and working towards, and hope to get better with your help. But if you can remind me of some of those questions, I can definitely ask them or answer them.
Well, there was the big one from Chad. Chad, would you like to ask your question? I could paraphrase it. I don't want to do that.
In the front of the class. Can you hear me okay now, Councilwoman?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so the question was, it kind of related to the Moore Square development project with a private-public partnership. So the question was, in the scenario where it is a partnership between public and private, when that development is being put forward, is there conversation, or how do we protect the ecosystem surrounding that new place? And what sparked the Vic's Italian restaurant in Moore Square is the bomb. So my wife and I are small business owners. When I see other small businesses, I instantly want to defend them. So that was kind of the question, was when it's a partnership, private, public. So the line is already being grayed. Are we utilizing that to make sure we're protecting the ecosystem around the project?
I don't think we're utilizing it well enough. No, we've had one private-public partnership, and we're still creating so there's no playbook to say this is what we need to ask for, because it changes between site to site. And I will say on council, the development agreements that there was one that passed, one that didn't pass. There was not a lot of conversation. So no, I don't think we're utilizing that at all. Well, I won't say at all, but in to the degree that we could be.
So the developer wins.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why, yes, that's 100% correct. And that's why it's so important, whether you're looking on the portals, going to the neighborhood meetings, making sure to uplift these concerns so that we know how to tailor that development agreement. Because like I said, it's not copy paste. It's in it's in different areas, it's different settings and different communities. So the reason it's so important for everyone to be active is so that as soon as you see that it's in, let's say, your area, that you are contacting council from the get-go, from before it comes to planning commission, you know, so we can get that into the development agreement. Because as soon as it comes to council, if you're waiting for it, it's almost done. It's like wrapped up by the time it gets to council. So these engagement opportunities, when they reduced it to 500 feet and 1,000 feet, you know, that was frustrating because less people found out about it. And, you know, it's easier for them to say, oh, we reached enough people. So it's very impactful to pay attention to your CACs and also to look on that portal so that you can have a voice earlier on.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, sure.
Christina, it used to be, I don't know if it was courtesy or required or strongly encouraged by the city council that those developers come before the CACs and in some ways negotiate some of those conditions or wants. I feel like that has gone away. And so is the city council in any way saying, have you been before the public forums on some cadence? They don't do.
So
yeah, I'll put the mic down. Thank you.
Okay. So, yes, it was completely dismantled. So what you remember is exactly what would happen. That was a requirement that they had to come to CACs first. So when they dismantled CACs, all those rules went out the door. So you're exactly correct that is not happening on a consistent basis. We will have developments that will go. I mean, we've worked with Atlas Stark a few times and they've come in before. So, but it's not a requirement. So those developers can and do, and this is where it's inconsistent on council. So whenever a rezoning case comes up and it has low engagement, I've been there to be like, hey, you met with 4 people. Is that considered complete? And then they're like, oh, yeah, I think that's representative. And I bring up, but that's not what you said with CACs. When CACs brought 4 people, all of a sudden it was a problem. So do I foresee that getting better? I sure hope so. But this is what this time with the CACs, everybody's talking to their groups, whether it's Midtown or Hillsborough, finding out what the requests are. And if it's a heavy emphasis on development, how we can make that happen. So these meetings that you're having right now that will filter up through our CAC are the times to say, this is what's important for us to hear about, and let us craft a plan around that. So I do think it can get better and it can get more involved, but I need you guys asking and putting it on those requests so it can go up the chain.
Yes. The problem a lot of times with development is the timing. Like sometimes the neighborhood meeting and the CAC meetings don't align well. There could be like a month in between. So by the time we want to have it at the CAC meeting, that neighborhood meeting might have been a month before, and they might be moving towards council already. And that's the problem. Whereas the old way, they were forced to come to the CAC meeting. And I don't know if we'll wind up back there or not. It's under negotiation.
Well, I mean, negotiation also, we're trying to strengthen the CACs as well. You only have 9 right now. So it'd be really hard to require developers to do that when half the CACs aren't even in existence. Right. So developers would be like, why Forestville's not open, so I don't have to do that. So we're trying, we can't always put the cart before the horse. We have to figure out other ways to get a similar alternative as we build back up to what we want it to be. Maybe that's representative of what was before, but we're not going to have anything like what we had, in the next distant future.
Like Steve says, we have to get our numbers back up too, which we're in the process of trying to do. So.
And you guys are doing a fantastic job. I mean, I think last month, you had 60 people there. Yeah. That you're doing phenomenal.
I wanted to hear you, Christina.
You guys are doing a phenomenal job. So I know it's frustrating. I totally hear you. I wish I could snap it back and bring it back to exactly the way it was. But we're at a really cool point where we get to create exactly what we want it to be in the future, and we get to set it in stone. So keep working with your CACs, and I'll keep working with leadership to make sure that those get incrementally added back in, because it does take budget. It does take money and personnel and staff and all of that. So I can't just promise you the world and then not deliver. So I'd rather take the hits now and give you small wins as we go.
Just out of curiosity, how's your campaign going?
I'm exhausted, y'all. I'm so exhausted. This has been a tough one. It wasn't this tough last time. I guess when
that's why I sent you a note. I wasn't sure you'd be here tonight. I appreciate the fact that you are.
Yeah, no, it's rough. I think we're all in the numb phase of this right now. I see the finish line. But if you haven't gone out to vote, please go. Please talk to the poll greeters. We are so grateful for everyone who's poll greeting right now. So I promise you, they're just trying to help. So say hi to them, say thank you, and I can't wait till next week.
Okay. Anybody have anything else for Christina? Okay. Well, thanks for waiting around. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you guys for being here.
Take care. Okay. All right. I guess the rest is on me. A couple of small things. November. Do you want to meet in November? Our meeting falls, I think, the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I think that's correct. Do you want to meet in November? I can certainly provide a meeting and have somebody entertain us, for better or for worse. So if you want to meet in November, we certainly can. In December, like we did last year, I'm intending to have a social for December like we did last year, where it just comes, greets each other. It'll be after the election, so maybe we'll get some city officials here to talk on
23rd Monday. That's 4th Monday.
For December. We have to move it back a week So it'll be December 16th, I believe it is, 16th, right? That's the date. But I'll fill you in that.
So could you move the Thanksgiving one up a week?
If you'd like to, we can try to do that.
Tell you within about 5 minutes.
We have the power to be here. Yeah. By the way, I guess you guys saw my rah, 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 get out and vote, right?
November 18th is open if you want.
Yeah, so we can do that. If you want to move it early, we can do that. We'll do that officially. We'll try to do that.
Send me a follow-up email.
I will certainly do that with the appropriate people. Have to fill out my form.
You don't have to fill out your form.
A couple other small things. Let's see. Linda, do you want to address the change that we're going to see for Eastgate?
So we have a couple changes coming to Eastgate. So this park, I will no longer be managing this location. It's actually really good news because what it means is it's going to be better utilized. So Eastgate, it currently operates as an unstaffed neighborhood center that operates under Millbrook Exchange Community Center. So me and my staff manage Millbrook as our primary site. We then have Eastgate and Honeycutt Park that fall under us as well. What that means is sometimes Eastgate gets the short end of the stick. It means that our focus is at Millbrook because that's where we're based out of. And so we've seen an opportunity across the Parks and Recreation Department to better utilize some of the spaces like this. And the way that we're looking at doing that is transferring the management side of it from me and my team at Millbrook to the Specialized Recreation and Inclusion Services program area within Parks and Recreation. So they're already out here 2 days a week. If y'all are out here on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the daytime, they are running what's called the Quest program, which is for adults with special needs. It's a day program for them. That program has been super successful here. I mean, you can see their lovely decorations are still up. But that program has really been the primary user group for this facility since our renovation. And so they are going to expand and continue to offer the Quest program. But the staff that oversee that are going to now be overseeing the building here. So they're going to handle rentals. They're going to handle being the primary liaison to the CAC. And so Kevin DeHunt and Kristen Winstead are the two primary contacts that y'all will be coordinating with. They will likely, I anticipate they will probably expand the Quest program potentially. They will likely start running other programs out of this space for individuals with special needs. But it will still remain an unstaffed facility without operating hours. But there will likely be more programs kind of using those gap time slots that we're not currently using right now. So we see it as a great opportunity for them. We've had success in the past at some other locations. Top Green, for example, shifted over from community centers to the historic resources division. I want to think there have been, let's see, Peach Road is now used to be a community center. It's now under cultural enrichment and outreach, cultural outreach and enrichment. I get their naming backwards. But we've had a lot of success with that. And so we see it as a really good opportunity for the site to be more fully utilized. Unfortunately, it means that it's a trade in leadership for us. I'm hoping Kevin will be able to join us next month so that I can introduce him to y'all. The process for CACs will not change on the recreation side. It's just the face is different. So you will still send everything through community engagement. It's still y'all's kind of primary connection, and then they reach out to us to book the space.
They don't see that part.
Yeah, they don't see all of that. So
You don't see the formality.
But the CAC and the other established groups that are using the space, whether it's on a monthly basis or stuff like that, will continue on. It's not, changing too much for you guys or for other groups that may be, reaching out to rent the space and stuff like that. Does anybody have any questions about it? And if you think of them later, you're more than welcome to email me. You will still see me around. I live in the area. This is one of the parks that I frequent, not just because I manage it, but because I like it. So you'll still see me around, and then I can always be reached in Millbrook as well.
Do we need to put an order in to fix the concrete where the tree came down?
Yes. That would be helpful.
We need to put a quick fix in to fix the concrete.
Yes, quick fix it. See quick fix it. So I'm not sure what their timeline is for that, but it would not hurt to put those in there. And again, there's a lot of things that, like work orders for the park, for example, currently come to me. So if you see things, there's a lot of folks that email me when they see things. We'll kind of start transitioning that over to Kevin and Kristen. The idea is the transition will be January 1st. The reality is that we're going to be working together with them, and as I get emails, we're going to just start copying both of us to get them fully transitioned over. So if there's anything that still comes up in the park, you are still more than welcome to reach out to me, and I will put you in contact with the new folks. But technically, the transition date is January 1st.
Okay. Steve, do you have anything to add? Any development updates?
Actually, I do, Larry.
Oh, wow. After I just said there's nothing going on. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, normally, so those of you who don't know, my name is Steve Brechbiel. I'm in the Community Connector program with the city. So what happens is I get to go to the first neighborhood meetings. So they're the ones that are generally, depending on the size of their property, it's your 500 or 1,000 area of people that are informed, and they go. There have not been many in District A, so there's been very few in District A. So this is not a moneymaker from you, believe me. So anyway, there was a recent one that we had in October, and this involved what we call Litchford Drive, 7015 and 7019 on Litchford. So if you follow up Litchford, if you go up Atlantic where it spreads out, you go up Litchford there, and these are two properties that are currently, there's one abandoned house on it. The other one is pretty wooded, 0.88 acres. What they want to do is rezone it from R4 to R10. Okay, so R4 with 0.88 acres, you might get 4 houses on it. R10, you can probably get 6 to 10 townhome type properties on it. So that's what they're looking at doing. There were 10 people showed up at the meeting. It included, so this abuts Hunting Ridge, okay, which interestingly enough, Hunting Ridge is a townhome community also. So it's, this is kind of interesting. You have two potential townhome properties behind each other. The primary concern that came up from the folks there is stormwater runoff, because those two properties are slightly elevated and water already accumulates on some properties adjacent to the south. So that was one concern. The secondary concern was once you start clearing is the tree and vegetation buffer between that property and the existing properties down there. There were some questions regarding traffic and how the development would connect to Litchford or Hunting Ridge. So is the road, how are you going to go in there? Is it going to deadhead? And it really depends on how they put the townhomes in place. The main thing about these meetings is really funny, because this goes back to the earlier conversation. This is the really early one. This is where people really need to get engaged. The good news was, for example, with Hunting Ridge, their HOA president was there. So, part of what the developer does and part of what I do is explain, okay, this is what the process is going to be. This is when you need to jump in. And, as Christina said, the last time to jump in is in front of the council. That's it's too late. So the developer was pretty open to different ideas. He really doesn't know where they're going to go, and that's the thing with these first neighborhood meetings. There's a lot of unknowns. So what will happen is they'll take their ideas, they give them over to staff. Staff looks at them, figures it out, sees what they like, sees what they don't like. They go back and forth, and then it actually becomes a formal rezoning type of submission. And then from there, you'll probably have a second neighborhood meeting, and that city staff will be at that one. And then from there, it can go to the planning commission and ultimately move forward from there. So the big issue there was really the stormwater drain off And it's, in this particular case, it's kind of interesting because they already appear to have a problem, which means they're gonna have to address that, one way or the other. But that is it for District A. So
Okay, good. It's one more than I knew.
that's why I'm here.
Yep. All right. Tonight was, from my standpoint, a good meeting because actually we had 3 different city representatives tonight at our CAC meeting. And that's what we try to do with the CAC, is to use CACs as a sounding board for the city departments to get out to talk to us. And then we can, of course, have a conversation and give feedback back. So this is the perfect dialogue of what CACs are all about. Now we just have to educate people to let them know that we exist again and how to get up with us. And like I said, it's vital to us to get that one link back, which just said, what CAC do I belong to? And it would send you to open data with a map and you could figure it out. But somehow it got archived or whatever. I don't know. It's out in the.
I did look into that specifically. Sometimes things like are cached and then they all of a sudden get cleaned up. That's the only explanation we could find for this one that made any sense. It just like it had been maybe taken down a long time ago and some update ran and then it finally cleaned out.
So you think that somehow we can find it?
I don't know.
or recreate it. Okay. Okay.
It's a ghost from the past.
Yeah, it was there and then it's gone.
It's gone.
But anyhow, I do appreciate the guests we had for tonight. I think the community appreciated everything. Appreciate it. And as far as development of CACs, I'm working hard to get us to where I think we need to be and working on a survey. It's going to go out. Survey will go out, probably the same questions you may have seen before, but we're working on getting a survey out to get a better overall flavor for what everybody wants to see for CACs. And that's one of the issues that you raised about having developers come into CACs. That's it. It's vital for us. We do it as we need to do it so far, not required. So, and if you have any input, just send me a note.
Thanks for arranging the meeting.
Yeah, my pleasure. It wasn't me. I mean, partially they came to me. Partially. Certainly Sarah did, so. And Karen did too, but Karen's not here. And Robin you stepped up. I asked you late, you stepped up. It's great. Yeah, well, I appreciate you doing that. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody. Great to see y'all. And I'll see you in November.